Let's now dive into the critical issues actually, of justice and accountability in the country, which remain unresolved. And joining me for this particular conversation, Wangeshi Grace, Executive Director, IMLU. Thank you so much. Karibu sana. Good evening.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening.
All right. Let's get straight to it. And let's begin with Monday. So the nation was reeling from the damning expose by BBC. Coincidentally or sadly, that same Monday, we witnessed, I think, 5 people shot by police officers. It is raising so many questions in the country, and questions Kenyans are asking, do you think the government and security chiefs in this country know their constitutional mandate, that is of protecting the life of the citizens? I think that's a good place to start.
Thank you. That's a good question to ask. And it's unfortunate that the government does not seem to care or understand. We're talking about life. We're talking about their mandate to protect citizens of this land. We are talking about a constitution that has defined what, the sovereignty of Kenyans and the beauty of life.
Yeah.
But here are people who we have put into positions of power. Here are state officers, people employed and paid by taxpayers' money, but they don't seem to understand what their role is when it comes to preventing and preventing violence, number one, but protecting life. And it's really sad when I hear of what I would call careless remarks by our leaders. Now, the expose did highlight very clearly what happened. There were rumors at a certain time that this really, it didn't quite happen, and government played the blame game of, criminal gangs and blah, blah, blah. But now here is you can see clearly someone who's been shot from the back. Somebody holds a gun and aims on an innocent person who's walking away.
A child.
Imagine. Young people of this country who are our greatest asset. So for me, I feel a bit sad that even with that, instead of taking responsibility and saying, let's take action and correct where we went wrong, we actually playing blame games. So this is not right, come on.
You're even speechless.
I've been angry, to be honest. We are very sad at the way government has taken this.
Yeah.
Would have expected responsibility, number one, and then you say, we will deal with the issue. And there are ways to deal with the issue. In fact, as we speak, the first thing somebody should have told the country is that the officer who was identified, number one, is no longer in service. That should have happened immediately it came out.
So from where you see, there's no goodwill from the government?
Of course, there's no goodwill.
Okay.
How else would you demonstrate goodwill? You can only demonstrate goodwill by taking action. These are not rumors, these are facts. We've been presenting numbers on an everyday basis from when the protest began and way before. A lot of organizations, the civil societies in Kenya, have been in existence for 30 plus years. A lot of us do human rights work. My organization, the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, we document using forensic evidence every case of torture, extrajudicial killing, and forced disappearances. And we provide the government with this information. We launch our reports. We call the government. So it's not like they do not know. Kenyans have spoken. Ashley, mothers, fathers have cried. Families to date have never gotten closure. Many families. We are still talking of 26 people who are still missing from the protests of last year. So how then would you say there's goodwill? What kind of goodwill is there when you still don't acknowledge? Then you do not provide the offices that are mandated to investigate and prosecute with the support, the requisite environment, resources, and capacity to investigate and prosecute. And then the case can go to, when it's in court, the judiciary will make a determination. So the structure is very well defined. We have different offices that actually have the mandate to investigate police inaction or cases of violence. We have the Internal Affairs Unit, which is an internal mechanism within the National Police Service that investigates complaints that the public put out on police officers. Then we've got the IPOA, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, a civilian outfit that is mandated with investigations and prosecution. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, they are frustrated. I will tell you that in last year, I am the Internal Affairs Unit team that was very progressive. A lot of them were transferred just like that on one day and put into other offices. Now, IPOA has been frustrated left, right, and center. They're not well capacitated, they're not well funded, they don't have the muscle to perform. Now, when they investigate, they depend on who to arrest. They depend on fellow police officers at DCI to arrest their own. How does that mechanism work?
Actually, that was where I was coming to, because IPOA in its status update acknowledged that it had encountered instances of non-cooperation from police and witnesses. So here you are as a Kenyan, you're wondering, okay, if IPOA is struggling, where does that leave us?
Exactly. And we've spoken about this issue for so long, and we have said, let IPOA be independent as it should be, resource it because it is provided for in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Remember, we are paying tax. Why do we pay tax? It is to ensure that all these systems function. It's not for people to put money in their pockets, as has become the order of the day. So now, if you don't capacitate IPOA to function, then there's a lapse in access to justice.
Yeah.
And one other thing that we really must speak about is command responsibility. Who takes responsibility for instructions that are given or made to officers to take certain action? A good example, Butere girls. Now you go and tear gas the girls.
Yeah.
Who gave those instructions? Where did those instructions come from? Okay? Post-election violence. 2007, 2008, cases never concluded to date. We are still, you know, there's a case that is still going on.
Yeah.
Baby Pendo case, still in the corridors of justice, it's never been concluded. But now the big question is, who gives out or who makes the instructions, who gives out the orders?
Yeah.
You know, do this. Now, the expose, you had clearly a voice saying, kill them, And then we keep quiet as Kenyans? Why aren't people listening? Why aren't people listening? When will action be taken? How do you honestly sleep knowing that you issued such commands?
Okay.
That you said, innocent children, 24-year-olds, 18-year-olds. In the case of Mandy, a child, is it 13-year-old? I mean, innocent. They are fighting for their land, which I am sure somebody is grabbing. They're just protecting their land.
Yeah.
These are unarmed people.
Okay.
How then do you say that, I mean, there's justice? Where do we go to as Kenyans?
I like the fact that you've talked about the issue of unarmed Kenyans. The Interior CS, Kipchumba Murkomen, spoke today, and this is what he had to say. Let's just listen in.
That is why we stand before you for this meeting, Father. Please do good to him.
Please come to committees. Afternoon, sir. My name is George Kabuti, the Regional Intelligence Coordinator. Good afternoon.
Mimi nakubaliana na machiefs kwamba every chief mwenye wako hapa na anasikia maisha yake iko hatari, tuko tayari kukuregister ukue NPR na upewe bunduki ya serikali ndio ujilinde wewe mwenyewe. Yeah. Those people to be arrested wenye wananunua hiyo ng'ombe and they are buying intentionally. Na wanabuy kwa their own standby kuhakikisha ati wamenunua. Number 2, where are the guns coming from? Wajana na mwenye ni nani huyu anatleta? Who is selling? Who are the main traders ya guns? Again, DCI, wakipatikana, shughulikia. But most importantly, where are the bullets coming from? Wajana guns sasa, bullets. Because tungekataza hii watu wasikuwe na marisasi, hiyo bunduki inakuwa fimbo, inakuwa useless.
Said that don't fear to work. as long as you're working within the law, and you all know that kind of a law.
That is the wrong clip that we have played. But of course, he talked about the fact that they will support police officers who are defending themselves, and that any rogue officer will be held accountable. Let's talk about the issue of supporting police officers who are defending themselves. I mean, if we go back to June 25th, 2024, these children had flag, mask, water. How is a police officer there defending themselves? From what?
That's a question. I mean, in the first instance, who's supposed to protect who? The police are actually supposed to protect Kenyan citizens. That's their primary role. And that's why it's a service. It's supposed to offer services to Kenyans, make sure that Kenyans are safe.
Yeah.
So when you reverse it and say they're supposed to protect themselves, then I wonder what's their purpose? Because you cannot be put in as a police service to protect yourselves. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And then if you remember, and you've just said it, the protesters actually, most of the times, used to kneel down and say, we are peaceful, we are peaceful.
Yeah.
How is that person a threat to you? If anything, the Public Order Management Act is very clear on how to handle protests. It's very clear on use of weapons. It's very clear on how to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
Isn't a police officer in a position of power because they have, they have heavy machines, they have, bullets, they have all these weapons. These innocent kids had nothing. So wasn't it their role to de-escalate and manage the situation, but not to mete out violence? You can see the reverse is what is happening. It's not, we're not supposed to be protecting police officers, they're supposed to be protecting wananchi.
Yeah.
So it beats, it doesn't make sense to me when you say police should protect themselves. Honestly, I think we are taking the issue of security and human life too loosely. We're actually losing it. Kenyans are saying, and they have said, and they need to be listened to, we are losing faith in the law enforcement.
So then what happens when we have weak institutions? How do we strengthen them as a country?
A couple of things can be done. One is to just ensure that these institutions are independent, because they are created as institutions with mandates and they're supposed to run on their own. They're supposed to be independent. But what is happening is a lot of interference. When there's interference, then they cannot perform their duties. Number two, just ensure that they are resourced, that they have the right people doing the right thing. Now, some of these institutions have people who've been put in those positions of power not to play the role that they're supposed to do or to play, but to cater for somebody else's interests. And that is what is killing these institutions. Thirdly, I've talked about resourcing.
Yeah.
But if they're not adequately resourced, both in terms of human capital, in terms of finances, and in terms of equipment and capacity, the skills. A lot of them have the skills, but they don't have the goodwill and the independence to perform. And the most important out of all this is behavior and attitude. It's a mindset.
Okay.
If you tell yourself that I'm going to take my orders from a different office, not the one that I'm supposed to, or I'm going to owe them, yet you know what the law says. That, I'm telling you, no amount of resources, no amount of training will ever change that.
Okay. If you, something else, sorry to cut you short, that is mind-boggling. I mean, the ODPP today said it is the first time such demos were witnessed in the country. And therefore, it is why this whole process has taken time. And now they're saying 1 year later, literally, I mean, it's only two months short to that anniversary, that the public and community need to be involved. I mean, let's just go back. We had pictures on social media. The DCI and other officers were tagged by various Kenyans and the youth online. Is it right now when there's this expose that you're realizing, oh wait, the community, it can help?
You know, in 2023,
Yeah.
we had the protests on the high cost of living. People died. We reported 61 people. And we reported actually 67 people. And we had evidence. And we are not the only institution that reported. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights made their reports as well. No action was taken. 2024, we report dead, 63, 89 enforced disappearances, over 600 serious injuries out of torture. Again, no action. Yet, there is evidence with the different entities, including IPOA.
Yeah.
So it's not about, it's just failed systems and structures and institutions. And somebody needs to be held accountable. The heads of these institutions must be held accountable. They are there to perform. They are there to deliver on their mandate. Why would you be the head of an institution if you're not delivering? Yet, you have people that are employed every single day. They are paid for that work. Yet, you have people of goodwill. By the way, it's not all police officers or members of the law enforcement units that are not performing.
Yeah.
It's just a few rogue officers. Those ones who decide, I'm going to aim at an innocent child and kill. Actually, if they were preventing or trying even to protect themselves, let's assume they were trying to protect themselves. Would you shoot at the head from a position of you're taking aim? Do you shoot at the head?
Or arrest them if need be then.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
there are many ways, as I said, to de-escalate. But you don't shoot. These killings of Mandi, why didn't they arrest them? Why don't you arrest them? Why kill? You know, the value of human life. I don't understand how we are not valuing human life. It pains me because I speak to families. I speak to parents. We deal with the survivors ourselves. On an everyday basis, we are offering medical support, psychosocial support. We are offering legal services. Mothers, wives, siblings, fathers, they cry. Tears of pain. You've lost a child, you've lost a loved one, not because of anything, but because they voiced themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, where are we going to? Yet the Constitution is very clear.
Okay.
The right to expression, the right to assembly, the right to picketing, the right to voice yourself. I mean, it is provided for.
So then, because we are in a period where we are seeing a decline in human rights. And I think LSK today say it threatens the sovereignty of our country.
Absolutely.
How do we strengthen human rights in the country right now, considering the political landscape and everything in it? As you say, there's no goodwill.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us in 1 minute as we finalize?
I think it really calls on people reflecting and asking themselves, what's my moral obligation? What's my constitutional obligation? We have to start putting the country first. If we love this country, if we love our country, we should start doing the right thing. And it saddens me when you criminalize the people who are actually patriotic. The patriotic people are the ones trying to fight for their rights and saying we have to stop. We have to stop with enforced disappearances. We have to put an end to torture. We have to put an end to extrajudicial killings. Those are patriots. They are people who are fighting to safeguard the Constitution. Leaders must ask themselves, are they really leaders? Are they people who should be followed? Are they people who we should have trust in? If not, then they vacate office and they let the right people go in. But at the end of the day, accountability must be.
Okay.
Yes.
And for the families, because you've said you talk to many families and they are still hoping for justice. What do you tell them in such instances when you yourself are not even sure if they'll get that justice?
For those that want to pursue their cases, because justice means different things to different people.
Okay.
The only thing we can tell them is keep going, keep going, keep going. Someday it will happen. Remember, and this is what leaders need to know, you will not be in an office forever. one day you will not be in that office. Somebody else will be sitting there.
Okay.
And so judgment.
It will happen either way.
It will happen someday.
Okay.
So I think they just need to start taking their work seriously.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wangeshi Grace. That is a good place to end this conversation. And of course, it's not ending here. It will continue as we continue, you know, hoping for accountability and demanding accountability and justice, not just for the victims and survivors, but for Kenyans in general.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much. Wangeshi Grace, who's the Executive Director at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, also known as IMLU. And that's how we wrap things up here on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for being part of the broadcast. I'm Ashley Mazuri. Our sign language interpreter was Damien Evans. Good night.